Hello, everybody. Welcome back to TMR's Master Advisor series. Today is December 12th, 2024. This is our very last episode of the year. We're going to be talking about social media today, mainly building a database through social media. We have a sponsor today, too. So I want to get into the announcements before we introduce everyone and get to today's episode. So for the last time this year, I just want to have Tom, who produces this show, throw the subscription link to our YouTube channel in the chat. I know I mentioned it every couple weeks here, but the YouTube is going to be the home to all of these episodes, all of our audio and our video content throughout the years. That sort of is our main channel. If you want to check out any of these, if you want to check out this one later today or rewatch it tomorrow, rewatch any of the probably 25 or 30 or so we've done this year. It's all on the YouTube there. So go ahead, check that out, subscribe, like all the videos. All that really, really helps us a whole lot to continue to grow these communities and this channel. So I just wanted to have Tom do that right now. Just for a reminder, I know we had a huge audience last time, but the last episode in travel trends was one of my favorite episodes of the year. We spoke about a lot for 25, what's coming up, what's sort of dominating the client conversations, things like that. It was really sort of an informative and eye-opening episode for me. I know I've gotten a lot of emails about it as well. So if you want to check that out, just another plug that is on the YouTube as well. All right, so the last thing I want to announce before we go ahead and get to our sponsor. Next year we're going to do things a little differently. We're still running these on our bi-weekly schedule with the off holiday here and there. So the schedule will be relatively the same, but we're moving to a more professional broadcast software outside of Zoom called StreamYard. StreamYard's going to be easier for us. It's going to give us some more fun things to do on here, maybe change the look and feel of these broadcasts, but more than that, you won't have to open Zoom as a program to get into in order to watch these episodes. It's going to be simply opening a StreamYard link into a browser. It's easier for you. It's more accessible. It's easier for us to broadcast. Again, gives us some other choices and other things to do for these broadcasts. So we're really excited about that. It was a sort of a big decision by us, but we're so excited to move over there. So next year things will be a little different, but we'll still be here, the same content, same guests, all in all. So we're really excited about that. We're really excited to see you in 2025. And I just want to announce the first episode, or one of the first episodes in January, is an old guest, Tom Carpenter, who's coming back to talk about building a terms and conditions sheet, which I know is so important. And I know is an episode we were asked a number of times to redo. So if you're on our list, keep an eye out for that. Please come back. Please enjoy your holiday in the meantime, but please come back in January, and we hope to see you all there. All right. All right, so with that all out of the way, I want to go ahead and introduce our sponsor for today's episode. We're really happy to welcome back Emery Mavis, a strategic advisor with Branch Up, who's going to tell us a little bit about Branch Up before we get into today's episode.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Well, welcome everyone and happy holidays. It's wonderful to be back at TMR and to see so many amazing faces, familiar faces, and some new names. So congratulations on continuing your education with Travel Market Report, which of course is one of the greatest publications in the industry. So I'm delighted that you're all participating in this event. Branch Up is really pleased to sponsor today's program, which is about, not only social media, but keeping your database, which is really an important part of running your agency. And I am thrilled that Denise Wiegans, who is also an old friend and colleague of mine, is going to be speaking with Dan McCarthy, the editor. Both Denise and Dan are old colleagues of mine, both familiar, not only with Branch Up, with TMR. Denise has 39 years of experience, about 13 as a travel advisor. She specializes in wellness and adventure, but more than that, she specializes in positivity, and she is absolutely a rising star in our industry. and has always been. She started with me way back in our early days, 39 years ago, with ASTA. So she has always been not only an agent, but she has always been an advocate for travel advisors. So I know that she keeps a very, very large database. And I know that she has a long, long list of clients and also colleagues. And her database is just something that she continues to update. So I'm sure she's going to give you tremendous tips. And she's also on Branch Up's advisory board. So we're thrilled to have Denise with us today. And we're thrilled to be the sponsor of this important, important subject. So without further ado, I just want to wish you a happy holiday and a most prosperous and healthy new year. Thanks so much, Dan, for having us.
Thank you, Amory. I couldn't have said it better myself, introducing Denise. Denise, I know you've joined us before. It's been a few months, definitely, but really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. So excited to talk about it and get into everything building a database on social media.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it being invited to do so. And Anne-Marie, thank you very kindly. We have had some wonderful decades together, and we just continue to do so. And I will tell you right now, it's exciting to actually be the rockin' holiday caboose of TMR this year. So thank you.
All right, awesome. So Denise, Emery mentioned you have 39 years of experience, 13 as an advisor. I'm curious what other roles you've served within the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've done on the corporate side, I've done with regard to travel trade shows. I've been involved in travel sponsors and suppliers and a variety of different capacities. So the toolkit was missing the travel advisor part of it.
Okay.
So I dabbled in throughout the decades in a variety of ways, which, like we all have here that's listening, we have some tried and true friends that stick with you throughout. And it's just been a blessing for me to be able to circle back in all the different ways, wearing different hats to do travel. But the advisor one is a lot of fun. I mean, I absolutely love it. It's a great way for me to be culminating my whole career.
And then, so Amory mentioned that your special, I know you serve a lot of different clients, but your specialties are sort of adventure and wellness travel.
It is absolutely, and that has organically shifted in the last, I would say, last 5 years or so. I have several businesses, and one is in the health and wellness space. So a lot of my clients come from that area,
Okay.
or vice versa if they're traveling and they want to go the other way. So it's a complement. I diversify my portfolio quite a bit, and I'm able to then have a number of things to communicate and talk about with people, whether it's out in the community, whether it's on the phone, whether it's when I'm traveling. So it's been very advantageous.
So I know today's topic is centered around social media, but I just wanted to ask you sort of about the general consumer sentiment going into 2025, Denise. And again, I know you have a unique business, adventure wellness travel is certainly a unique niche. But I guess in general, what's your client's appetite for traveling in 2025 compared to 24 and 23? We know these years have been sort of extraordinary for the travel industry when it comes to consumer demand. And I'm curious, are you seeing the same level of demand in 2025 or any other trends that really stick out for you?
Absolutely. 2025 is, we're 2025, 2026, and some small percent talking about 2027. So that's with, individuals, that's with families, that's, so solo travelers, families, groups, and so forth. So it has not stopped. I am enjoying the last 2 years of solid travel business. And so is the agency and the independents that are my colleagues out there, my peers. We are literally trying to come up and breathe. And we're constantly saying, can someone help me? I'm going to be traveling, but I've got 5 on the waiting list here that need their quotes and so forth. So we are working together, but the trend is it's not stopping. And the other trend is, for whatever reason, what I'm seeing, budgets are increasing, and it's definitely generational. There is such a boom so I'm doing families of, 8, 12, 18, 23. And I wasn't seeking that, but it has come my way. And again, the other thing that I think is important, and I think a lot of people may be experiencing this, is it is referrals. That is one of the biggest words I can drop on here today is referrals. My database grows because not only do my current clients and friends of them see my social media, because this is all, it does stem from social media. I am getting referrals of referrals of referrals. So friends of
Okay.
friends of friends.
All right. All right. So I think that is incredibly encouraging. Like it does seem like the North Americans sort of shifted in their behavior, spending on goods during the pandemic, spending on services and experiences now. And all the advisors I talk to nowadays are pretty bullish on that sentiment continuing. And like, I guess the question for it's a question for economists, but whether or not that's going to be a permanent consumer change over the next decade or so. But it's interesting to hear your perspective, hear other perspectives as well. But like you mentioned, let's get into referrals and social media. So the topic of today, and I don't want to stray too far from it now, is building a database through social media. Denise, I
Exactly.
was curious if you could just tell us a little bit about what we talk about when we talk about building a database in social media. Is it simply adding people as your followers, adding people to your business, your personal pages, things like that?
Yeah, I think I would just take a moment to step back and just say, are you giving yourself permission to be in the social media space? Because it's one thing to be on social media and say you have a timeline or you have a business page, but are you going the next step? Are you going next level? I applaud the people right now who are able to have their cameras on. That takes actually courage and confidence and saying, I'm all in. Okay, because that's a social media thing. Are you willing to put yourself out there? Are you willing to turn the camera on? And that's not against anyone who has to have the
Yeah,
camera off. So please don't misinterpret that. However, what I would say is when we think of social media databases, you have a brand and you're going to identify one way or the other. And if you are public on your original timeline, and then you have a business page, well, of course, on your own, you can market and create a database, but it takes work and it takes time and it takes commitment and consistency. It takes work, it takes time, it takes commitment, it takes consistency. Very important. However, it doesn't have to take a lot of time to build a database. I think if you strategically make a commitment on a weekly basis that says on X day for X amount of time, this is what I'm going to do. And this is, again, just the first level in where you have your business page and you have your social media platforms. And I don't think everybody has to do all the platforms because the
yeah,
folks that I'm talking to in our industry, we're picking about two and we're being very strategic in doing so. From there, you can then go next level and say, well, how much heavy lifting do I, excuse me, how much heavy lifting do I really want to do? Do I want to do it all? If I thrive on it, maybe I do. And there's plenty who do great, right? And I want to be conscious and cautious because there are folks who would instantly say, oh my gosh, well, that's the influencers. Even I follow the influencers because they're awesome and they're doing this and they're showing that and they've got this and they're making it all fun and beautiful. But reality is there are tools available to
yeah,
us to help build those databases.
yeah. So I do want to dive into the tools. I want to talk about sort of figuring out how to move a social media audience into a database. But then you mentioned pick two platforms. I want to talk a little bit about that as well. But I want to start on something you mentioned there, Denise, about turning the camera on. When we sort of chatted earlier in the week, you were talking about sort of shifting a mindset from an agent to an influencer, and you said, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but you said travel advisors are automatically influencers. I was hoping you could elaborate a little bit on that, about how advisors can shift their mindset around social media when it comes to the word influencer, which I know is a word that holds a lot of weight.
Yeah, it does. And it's a really good point. It's a point we need to talk about today because I think people don't see themselves as an influencer. My hat is a travel advisor. But if you expand on a travel advisor or even who you are as a person, you already are somebody in business, in your communities, within your groups, within your churches, whatever touch points you have, you're influencing by being present and explaining and sharing what you do. That's the definition of an influencer. You're actually putting yourself out there. It doesn't necessarily always have to be a product. In our case, we do have a product, and the brand product is us, starts with us. And then depending on what your niche is, you become an influencer by sharing that. But people are not giving themselves the permission to say, I actually am an influencer, because if you're talking about travel, if you're talking about products, you're influencing the mindset of somebody that you're talking with, or that you're visually stimulating in your social media platforms. You're getting their attention span. So give yourself permission to be an influencer, to identify as an actual influencer. And that is part of the growth that you take when you're coming into the social media space.
Yeah, and I guess I know a lot of advisors are a little overwhelmed when it comes to that idea of being an influencer, particularly like you mentioned, Denise, being in front of the camera a lot. I know this is a big question, but any advice on that like end of things, on getting over maybe fear of being on camera, fear of putting yourself out there, like that's sort of a significant jump for a lot of people.
It is a significant jump. And I actually do train on that with some other clients of mine. So what I always say first is get comfortable hearing your voice. And the best way to get comfortable in hearing your voice is to practice within your home, in front of a mirror, or with a really good accountable friend, a true friend, or a family member, or the dog, whoever it might be, because that's what's scaring people a lot is, oh my gosh, my voice cracked, or oh my goodness. Well, guess what? You can be forgiving to yourself, and you can get comfortable to be uncomfortable. And it's just a matter of practicing. And I challenge everyone who's on here, because you're already having phone calls, you're already seeing people out and about when you're in the industry or when you're traveling, and you're comfortable doing that. So social media is no different. Don't fear seeing yourself or actually doing it. You can do this, and it's a mindset that says, I've got this, I want this, and I'll dial into this. The other thing is, when we talk about tools, there are a plethora of things on Dr. Google that can help you get there. But I would definitely say just go ahead, whichever platform is best for you, create a video, or just normally get a video on your iPhone and send it to somebody in your family and say, hey, I'm test driving this. Would you critique me a little bit and tell me how I sound? And am I making eye contact? And what could I do better? Be vulnerable to receive in some critique. And then you can fine tune as you go along. But don't let that stop you. You shouldn't freeze up per se. If you want to test with me, look for me. I will help you. I do this all the time, and people touch base, and it's a really fun exercise. But you'll get there.
All right, awesome. And again, this has sort of been the year of social media on this platform, the year of short form video, I would say. Like, we've had a couple of YouTubers in here who are generating a crazy amount of leads. And we had a couple of TikTokers too, who are just like, it's so crazy when you talk to the numbers of new clients they're be able to bring into their agency through this platform, sort of, again, like you mentioned, Denise, just like putting themselves out there, making themselves known as an expert in travel and an expert in whatever niche they're operating in. And yeah, the stories of the success on social media I've heard over last year are so wild. So I know there's some thoughts about people being late in the game. I don't think that's a thing at all. I think now is the perfect time to sort of jump on it. All right, awesome. All right, so Denise, I want to talk about sort of like practical social media advice. I want to start on picking two platforms or just talk about the platforms in general. But we actually had a good question in the chat from this Weddell, talking about, I guess, how do you find your best new destination to influence? We all read the same periodicals. What's the best way to know before it's a thing? I mean, I guess I have some thoughts on this, and my thought would be, like, when you read Travel and Leisure, when you read Condé Nast, like the next best trending destinations, the top 100 destinations of 2025, like those are all coming from reporters or editors talking to travel advisors. Like, the advisors are the front line of the industry. They're the ones who are knowing that clients are asking for X more than they've ever asked before. Clients are wondering if they can go here before, like, we've never had this kind of thing before. Or suppliers are starting to invest in product in this area and things like that. It seems like just talking to your colleagues, talking to your groups, talking to your BDMs, things like that is a good way to get that kind of knowledge. And I'm not sure if you have any thoughts on that, Denise.
I do have thoughts on that. I would say, first and foremost, dial in and look in, because what lights you up? where's your burning passion? What's your goal? What is something, a place on this earth that you want to go that you may be like, gosh, I've never sold that, so I don't really know much about that. But I will tell you the hidden gems that then come out, that we see then like, oh my gosh, okay, so I was just thinking this and now it's a trend. And so you were already on it before they were on it. You know what I mean? So don't negate the fact that you have the ability, the knowledge to say, you know what, people aren't traveling here. What's happening over here? Is this another, remember Croatia was like the former Yugoslavia. It was such a hidden gem.
Yeah.
All of Europe, right? So like, I think it's really powerful to realize you are capable of coming up with the next new destination. However, if you're specifically saying like, Denise, where are you getting those? I do have touch points with a lot of travel reporters, and I have touch points in the wellness space that includes wellness travel. So we are constantly aware of hotspots, if you will, for wellness. And wellness can be defined where people are 100%, that's the kind of travel trip they want. Or they're just like, I want a great trip and I want it to be like a healthy, happy, I'm going to be vibrant on it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be necessarily in a big group and I'm going to be, with a headache because we're all being shuffled around.
Yeah. What I'm curious, Denise, are there any, just going off that question, are there any destination hotspots? And I'm curious in the chat too. I know I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the episode, but if you have a destination that's sort of trending more often now with your clients, I'd love to hear about it. But Denise, for you, for wellness in particular, like, are there any new destinations or new properties or new trends in general when it comes to this kind of niche that you're hearing from clients, you're hearing from suppliers, or again from sort of your inner self?
Well, right out of the gate is Malta.
Okay.
Okay, Malta has picked up. Okay, and people are almost like, shh, don't tell people I'm going to Malta.
Okay.
And I really say that I mean that because they're literally like, Malta's where I'm going because not everybody's going there. Okay, that's what they're saying to me, and I'm actually recognizing that as well. It's a little hidden gem. So do we have to find all the gems? No, not necessarily. With my 20 to say 40-year-olds, they're all about Asia and Thailand, okay, or the Maldives, right? I mean, that is what they're eating up, and you know why? It's a visual stimulation. It's fantastic for their social media. They absolutely love those kind of things. Everybody's kind of starting to check the box, but it's still a vibrant place to go. But been there, done that with certain ice locations up at the top of the world, up at the bottom of the world, and in between, right? So okay, well, what's the next thing that we're going to do? Well, the next thing that's really ramping up, and there is budget for it, is African safaris. Okay, so we've got a whole uptick where I would say my 40 to 65-year-olds have the budget. The kids are out of the house. This is a dream trip. Can you curate it? And what does that look like? And how much should I start budgeting now? I do actually, this is why I was saying 2026. I have folks saying, okay, in 2026, 2027, we want to do a safari. We know it's going to cost us. What should I start budgeting for that? And I have obviously qualification questions for them. So I would be curious if anyone else is seeing that, but there's no question that's happening. I think when we think about wellness, which is my space, and adventure, which goes hand in hand, it's not necessarily that my clients are saying, I want to go off the grid and I want to like go and like be pampered the whole week. It's a balance. It's absolutely a balance. When I worked at ASTA, ASTA's phenomenal, and I want to maybe remove myself that I worked at ASTA. It's been a long time since I've been there. I am an ASTA member, but the point being is ASTA is always got their finger on the pulse. Okay, so be an ASTA member or not an ASTA member, ASTA is a leader in actually helping with destinations because of the volume of advisors and the representation they have at ASTA. And there's many other great organizations that are doing that. So you're building a database by finding out also when you're doing your social media, you can literally type in the search bar. I don't know how many of you are doing this, but that search bar can be your friend. And you can put in what's the latest hotspot? Where do people want to travel?
Yeah.
What country is the most popular one right now? And then all this stuff comes up, and you might be surprised. It literally could be your friends that are commenting on things like that.
Yeah, and incredible. I've heard the same things, and he's like you mentioned. You mentioned Southeast Asia. It was funny. I heard yesterday Laos is going to be big. South Korea, like Vietnam, like that area seems really ripe for an expansion in 2025 and beyond. And African safaris, I know the travel trade has been talking about African safaris for a while, but it does seem like it was really caught on consumer wise too. So definitely, I completely agree. Let's stick on the social media point. I guess in the beginning of the conversation, you mentioned time, commitment, consistency. The question I always get from advisors when I talk about social media is that they don't have the time, they don't have the time, they don't have the time. Like they don't have the time to actually go into the social media, to be creative, to do things like that. I was hoping you could talk a little bit about why it's important to be consistent. And you mentioned tools. I know we branch up with us today, like tools, including branch up that sort of help you maintain that consistency.
And I'll say, first of all, I'm human. And I too was into that whole like, oh my gosh, do I have time? And I want to, and I see them doing it. And then I feel like this whole, this comparison is the whole thief of joy type thing. And like,
Yeah.
oh my God, stay in my lane, stay in my zone, do me, right? Well, that's where you can actually up level and you can find the tool that works for you. And I think what's happening is people are aware there are tools. I don't think that that's necessarily the issue here, that there are things that can help them. It's taking the time to quickly identify what a good alignment for them will be, because it's not, each one is not for each person, but there are some really spectacular ones, Branch Up being one of them. And it helps you truly, truly build your database because they're partnering with the most part, in my particular case, 9 times out of 10 with my preferred suppliers. So that makes a difference. I did my homework. I did take a look at, what's out there and who's working with who. And, does it make sense for me to use this one if they're not with my preferred suppliers? So I think when you realize that these marketing offerings, these social media database marketing offerings have done the homework for you, the heavy lifting, and then you can say, and you control it. So I want you to understand when you align yourself with one of them, you're in the driver's seat. Okay, they give you that tool, but you can turn on or off what you want to post on whatever platforms. It can be a post with a beautiful visual picture that the supplier has provided. It could be a reel. It could be, a variety of different things on LinkedIn, Facebook, social, Instagram. And you're getting statistics and algorithms and things related to what's happening, which is why I'm loving what's occurring for me. And then here's the bonus. And then you end up doing a client or yourself with one of those suppliers, and then you then have your own footage and photos. You actually
Yeah.
you have the ability to add it into a reel that they've created for you that pops up with your picture and your contact information, and you can control how many do I want to go out today, or do I want to make sure the one that was just provided to me for tomorrow, you know what, I want to talk about Malta next week, I'm going to grab that one and I'm going to put it on the schedule for next week. You know what I'm saying? So there's a variety of ways to do that. Is that time consuming? You know what, I set aside a portion of time per week. It's a dedicated protocol to doing my social media and setting it up. So I think when you train yourself and you're committed to doing it, it doesn't have to be a lot of heavy lifting. It doesn't have to be arduous work.
Yeah. And I think so. I again, I speak to advisors a lot, and I see there's a lot of questions about branch up in the chat too. I don't know. I know Amory, we still have Amory with us, but we might be able to grab some of these as we go along today. But a lot, yeah, like you mentioned, Denise, a lot of the concerns I get from advisors who are sort of looking at making a big commitment to social media is one, getting the materials in order to post constantly. Like I know advisors do travel a lot, but it is a full-time job gathering content. And you're also selling, you're also
Yeah.
marketing, you're also talking to your
Oh,
ICs,
yeah.
running an agency, things like that. So it does become difficult. So like you mentioned, suppliers are pretty good at supplying you with materials that will help you on social media as well. And like you mentioned, we had advisors on this. We had a couple of advisors on here who have sort of transformed the way they worked by dedicating an incredible amount of time to social media, like 3 or 4 hours a day of social media. That's clearly paying off for them. But I know I've had other advisors on this show say there's a rule they have to do 10 minutes, 10 interactions a day. Um, they do a lot of other things on social media. But I guess when it comes to time commitment and consistency, time commitment is going to be up to an advisor. And I guess like you can correct me, I guess if your philosophy is different, but it's going to be up to an advisor how they built their business. And then consistency seems like the big thing to me. Like if you're spending 5 minutes a day, make sure you're spending those 5 minutes a day. If you're spending an hour a day, make sure it's an hour a day. Like being consistent seems the biggest thing for me.
It really is. And I think the other thing is, again, don't get tripped up on what you're seeing in the other spaces,
Yeah.
because, oh, I wish I could do a reel. Oh, I wish I could, do a story. Well, you know what? You got to start somewhere. So if it is just the simple posting of a trip you just took or a client just took or whatever, that gets you going, that gets you started. And then you can say, you know what? I want to advance to stories. Well, how do I do that? Or if I do know how to do that, why am I not doing more of it? Right? So as we head into a whole new calendar year, there's a plethora of phenomenal information coming in from the suppliers. They want that information out there just as much as we want to tell people about them, right? But I think if you're giving yourself the permission to say, I don't have to be everything to everybody, and knowing who your clients are and what your niche is, and in order to grow that database, remember, I will caution people, don't just stay comfortable with your database. Look at your friends' friends. What
Yeah.
are they talking about? So your friends, your clients might be tagged in other people's posts, or you're running a search on hashtags. Those will all help you generate new databases. And Dan, I know you and I talked about this, but please, if you're not already aware, on both Instagram and Facebook, there are groups that you can put
Yeah.
yourself in that exist in your local communities and in your region. And a lot of my business comes from them because people tag me as a referral when somebody says on a community board, hey, does anyone know a good travel advisor? Or hey, my family's interested in an African safari. Do you know anybody who could help me? It's so overwhelming. I need a good travel advisor. And I get tagged, and majority of my clients, I don't know. I've never even met them in person, but then the other part of that is I'm so blessed with my clients. I love my clients. They will lift a story or a reel or a post and they will forward it. So I mean, you can't ask for a better situation where they're actually doing it for you and saying, and then they'll send me a message on Messenger saying, connecting us. Hey, Denise, I know you don't know Brenda, but she's asking about a trip to so and so. And since you did a great job on our trip, I told her you would take care of her. So it's a natural flow, but it's because I'm putting myself there over and over and over, right? But
Yeah.
remember, that's coming from services such as Branch Up, right? Where that heavy lifting was done for me and all that beautifulness was taken care of, and I didn't have to even worry about it.
Yeah, it is really interesting to hear you talk about the groups thing because I'm not sure if this happened organic. It seems to definitely happen organically, but I don't think a lot of agency owners or advisors are doing this as a strategic thing. Maybe they are now, but I'm hearing so many people being in these community groups, like you mentioned, Denise, whether it's moms of X area or brides of X area, or like maybe church groups and things like that on social media, becoming a part of that community, becoming a valuable like not a spokesperson, but interacting with the people in those groups, talking to those people in the groups about all subjects. And then when inevitably the subject of travel does comes up, you're a trusted voice already, and you're the one they're going to turn to when they need some advice. So it is interesting to hear like the group strategy coming from you as well, because I've heard that a number of times.
Yeah, and I would encourage each of us as professionals in this space. I will always say thank you to the person who tagged me, and then the person who actually did the post. as a courtesy to our industry, I will say, Brenda, I would be happy to assist you, guide you, direct you, collaborate with you, whatever word you choose. But thank you for actually choosing and looking for a travel advisor. Any of the folks on this list that are being tagged, I'm certain are able to assist you because they have the credentials and they have the certifications and so forth. So it's a give back, and it's not to be a suck up, but it's really like, wow, you actually said you wanted a travel advisor when we were hearing, do they still exist? Right? So there's a whole combination of being nice to each other. There's plenty to go around. I have a lot of work. I can't come to take care of everybody. And I have people in my circle within my peer group. I can say, you know what, that Disney one, I have the perfect advisor for you. And I can, hand it off or whatever the case might be, because I really try to stay true to what I'm working on.
Yeah, and like Karen mentions in the chat, I'm on many groups, but most have rules against self-promotion. It would be best, as you said, if someone tags you and
She's
brings
right.
you into the
Or
conversation.
he's
Yeah,
right.
it
Yep.
seems like
That's right.
yeah, exactly. Like like I said, it seemed I think it happened organically with so many people is that they were participating in these groups, they were getting to know people online, and they were becoming a part of these communities. And then when they do need a travel advisor, so many people need travel advisors these days, they already trust you, they already know you, they're ready to give you your business. So I think that's really an
Yes.
incredible way. Yeah.
And here's one more thing to add though with groups. So I'm in 4 groups now in my broad region of the Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, etc. Business Tuesday, we're allowed to self-promote.
Okay.
Okay, so we literally, so every Tuesday I go on and I have just a little blurb and I have a connection. So that's what a lot of groups are doing, because they're recognizing there's a lot of businesses and there can be infighting, if you will, if somebody happens to get an opportunity and the other one doesn't. So you can actually post on Business Tuesday.
Okay. What kind of groups are they, Denise? Like, you don't have to be specific, but they're just regional groups, like regional Delaware,
Yeah.
Maryland, like
Yep.
Chamber of Commerce things? Yeah.
The newest ones that I am on, believe it or not, are a semi disconnect from travel. So I have 2 new clients from food groups.
Okay.
And here's why. Because I'm putting myself out there going to restaurants. I come back in the group and I do a review with my pictures. It just happens to be how I tell the story of my wonderful restaurant night. And then people click on me and they see who I am. That's what these 2 did. So I couldn't have asked for a better setup, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
then, and then others were like, they were somehow they got connected to my business page, and that day's post was specific about cruising.
Okay.
Okay, that again, this was a post that I had put up for me, and they were like, "Hey, that's what we're interested in doing. Would you be able to help us?" And you have the conversation, you feel it out. Some will hit and some won't.
So I have a few more questions, Denise. We only have about 5 minutes or so left. So
Okay.
if anyone does have a question, I see a lot of branch up questions. And I know Amory's, I see her in the chat still, and she's trying to grab as many as she can. Maybe we'll be able to grab some at the end here as well. But Denise, it seems like the platform you're concentrating on it seems like Facebook, just by talking about the groups, talking about how you're operating social media. It seems like Facebook is your big platform.
I would say Facebook and Instagram are my biggest ones. I am on LinkedIn as well, but my lens on LinkedIn is more just awareness. Like, hey, I'm a professional, and one of the things I do is travel. And so that's just a reminder for folks there. And it's a way for me to connect with all my travel industry peers. Absolutely love that. If I get something from LinkedIn, that's wonderful, but I'm not banking on it as much as I am with my Facebook and my Instagram. Instagram is for my 20 to 40-year-olds. Facebook is stronger with my 40 to 60, 70-year-olds. It's
Yeah.
just the way it is.
And I know platforms are going to, the most powerful platform you have is going to depend on your client base, like you mentioned, Denise. Um, So Facebook would be your biggest platform. And then I'm curious when like it seems like you have a lot of organic growth. You mentioned like referrals, you're getting a lot of
Yeah.
people pulling you to somebody else or pulling somebody else to you. Are you like how do you formally add people to like an email database or your CRM when you're like adding them on your social media pages as well? Or is this sort of is your database on social media exclusively your database on social media?
So that's a really good question because each one of us is going to be very, very different in that space. When you use a tool or a service, they actually provide, a lot of them provide an email newsletter, right? So that became a bonus for me. But the majority of my clients, it's right here. They want, once we're engaged, it's going to be texting, but to get them engaged with me, it is social media, social media. It is not email. To get folks to, I got 2,486 I haven't even opened. That's me. And I'm literally the one, that I'm trying to get people to open up emails and I'm not even opening my own emails, right? We're overwhelmed. The average consumer is overwhelmed. They can only process and take in so much information and they've got a small snippet of time. And if the mom or the professional is just like, there's no way I see the subject line, and unless that's a really good trigger point that'll pull them in, you know what they're doing at nighttime on the pillow? Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. She went on Virgin Voyages, whatever the case
Yeah.
might be. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's
Yeah.
what's happening right here, right here. Scrolling. Scrolling is a big one.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. And then like we again, I keep mentioning the other people we've had on this year, but a lot of them have talked about sort of mastering the algorithm on whatever platform they were using, whether it was
Yeah.
YouTube or TikTok. But it seems something very different for you, Denise. It seems like you're growing as a word of mouth thing, but instead of someone at the barber shop or someone at the coffee shops physically saying it out loud, it's happening via these Facebook groups or via some other way on Facebook or another platform.
It's visual. Travel is visual. And so when I say that, it is definitely going to be your social media databases will grow with a visual connection. You can put up just a word only post or whatever, but that's why I think we're seeing such an uptick. And because they're kept short in the stories, in the reels, that's a win-win. And again, I'm not doing the heavy lifting. I've got a service that's helping me do that
Yeah.
quite well. So, but I put up my own things too, right? I think that is, the visual will always score more when you show the lion or you show the island or you show whatever, or you're on the airplane, right? I want that too. We know people want it. It's, they have to work with their budgets. And that's one other thing I wanted to add here is, as we build our databases, we're consciously thinking about, well, who is our client and what is their budget, and what are they looking for, and where have they, how long have they been with me, or if they're new,
Yeah.
how can I attract them to attract their friends and followers, right? Because if we're not looking at building our database with the connection points, the dots, then we're killing ourselves already. But we're shutting ourselves down and just saying, oh, I'm happy with my 1,438 people who I'm friends with. Well, are they opening your stuff? Are they looking? Because remember, the algorithm is changing, and a lot of people go into jail, right? Facebook jail or whatever, like all that's happening too, or they're hacked. So you got to be really conscious. I
Yeah.
would be curious with our audience how many actually have a business page, because some of the tools require a business page.
Yeah. I know,
Okay.
and I know even outside of Facebook too, you need business pages on other platforms in order to be able to promote or do certain things.
Yes, absolutely. So, um, there was a question? I think I just missed it. It went flying up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Marissa wants to know if you can elaborate more examples on visual connection for social media effectively. And I guess that would just be the photos, the videos, like the in real life, the first person things that you can share, like I guess to inspire your clients.
Yeah, I would say that. And but what I'm missing here that I realize I haven't said yet is, you want folks to know you as well.
Yeah.
So let's not just rely on the posts that others are, that are providing to you and you're putting up. So maybe every now and then do a story Maybe you talk, maybe you don't talk, but let people know who you are, that you're authentic, that you're real, that you can be
Yeah.
trusted, that you're coming from the heart, that you mean well, that you serve in your community. If you're aligned with something like Rotary, let that be known. Oh my goodness, when I was a Rotary president, that was such a boon for me for
Yeah.
business. I saw you on Facebook, and that connects Rotaries to the whole world, like a lot of organizations. So don't forget the services that you give back in your community and how that can connect you. And you can talk about that on your social media. Build your
Yeah.
database.
Exactly. And like you mentioned, these, the advisors I know who are successful on video platforms in general, I guess specifically video platforms, I mean, they have
Yeah.
that same philosophy. They're not necessarily selling on their social media, but they're developing that trust with clients, reaching new clients, growing their
Yeah.
database, growing their influence. And then once they have them hooked, once they have that relationship built, then they might, hey, by the way, I have a travel agency if you're ever looking to travel, if you're ever looking to go to this destination. Right. And
Yeah,
you
and
can
Dan,
check
keep
me
in
out.
mind, we may all be forgetting there's the influencer who's getting paid to be an
Yeah.
influencer. Let's not forget that, right? So just because you're like, oh, I wish I could do that. Well, you know what? They're being paid to do that. They were just sent there to make that real. They were just sent there to, have this whole plethora of stuff based on the company who hired them to do that. I'm talking about let's us be the real McCoy. We are
Yeah.
professionals. And I'm so proud of everyone who's on here today, and happy holidays to everybody. And, don't, look for best practices, whether it's me or whoever it is that you just think is exciting on social media, and extrapolate and take pieces from that and apply it. That's not called stealing at all. That's just like being a better person and saying, you know what? Sheila, I see you smiling and I love your smile. You are just awesome. I just think that we're such an enriching community, an enriching industry. Everybody wants to be a travel advisor, but you know what? They don't realize what we do behind the scenes. They don't realize the work we do and the certifications and so forth. And that's okay, because they don't necessarily have to. But as long as we're the front, we're the face that says, hey, I've got travel. Where would you like to go? We're doing our job and it's fun. And I think don't forget the fun.
All right, that's awesome, Denise. I think we're going to end there. I just want to and I want to welcome Emery back in a second because I see a lot of questions about branch up, and hopefully, Emery, you can point people to where they can go to get these questions answered. But I just want to set the stage for 25. I know a lot of people want to grow their social media platforms, are looking at new platforms too. I went through Bloomberg numbers this morning and get some numbers for everybody in terms of monthly active users. And Facebook is still the leading platform with almost 3 billion monthly active users. But from there, it's sort of surprising that YouTube's the second most popular platform. Then it goes Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Pinterest, and then X, formerly Twitter. So it really does seem like these video platforms are growing, which I know Branch Up can help with. But Amory, anything you want to say before we wrap up today? Anywhere you want people to head where they can find answers to all those questions I saw in the chat?
Thank you, Dan. And Denise, thank you. That was some great, valuable information that we all learned from. I would just like to say, first of all, thank you for all your kind comments about Branch Up. I didn't want to give too much of a commercial because this was really Denise and Dan's time, but branchup.com does work with hosts, and we do work with consortia. So if we're not working with your consortia, I just recommend that you speak to your consortia about it. We are not involved in the transaction. So we do not make any money in the transaction. I want to be clear about that. And there are many content providers, social media platforms out there that you can use. Many of them are great. The only differentiator that we have that I think is really important, I just don't know what, that I think is really important for you to understand is that we do the posting every day automatically for you. So the time that Denise was talking about that it takes for you to post on your Facebook business page, it has to be your Facebook business page. And we explain on branchup.com, we have videos there to tell you exactly how to put a Branch Up business page together, and then how we post for you. And then we have advisors that tell you 20 minutes a week. On Sunday, Philip Archer, one of our advisors, goes in, he looks at our marketing calendar. It's a calendar that looks just like this Facebook looks with the faces. It shows you all the posts we're going to do for the next 14 days or 30 days. You decide, do you want them? Don't you want them? Do you want to add a comment? So there was a question that said, well, what if my consortia is doing a promotion? So let's just say you're doing a promotion on, I'm just going to say AMA Waterways, and we have an AMA Waterways post. You can take that post and you can add, and we have a special on such and such a date with AMA Waterways. So just click here and I will email you and call you with information, because every post has your photo on it. Every post has your contact information. Every post goes to a landing page that gives the client, the customer, additional information. And then every post allows that customer to click for more information. When they do that, the email goes directly to you and you see who it's from. It CC's Branch Up, so you know it came from the Branch Up post, and then you contact your follower. So it's done specifically for you. And as Dan said, Facebook is still the #1, but we now, and that's all free. We do that free because our founder, Mike Drever, was the largest travel advisor franchise in Canada. He started that in the 90s. He built 174 locations. He sold it to Expedia, retired, and just like many of us on this call, you know, travel is in our blood. So he came back when he realized, you know what, advisors need marketing help. We don't have the time. You know, suppliers are constantly telling us, do this, do that, you know, this will make you more successful. What makes you more successful is servicing the customers that you have and building the databases Denise and Dan explained. That's what makes you successful, servicing them. So Branch Up is a tool that will help you market every day to the customers that you have. And we have other things on there, such as a newsletter that we customize for you. It's a consumer newsletter, not a trade newsletter like TMR. So I am happy. We have many webinars. We do them at Branch Up. Sorry, I was with Travel Market before for 11 years, so I don't want to confuse the two. But we do many webinars at Branch Up that will really walk you through these steps. So as I put in the chat room, I will send you a link. We will send you a link. Dan will share with us and Tom will share with us, everyone who attended. We'll send you a link to Branch Up. We'll send you a link with webinars that will tell you, explain every step of the way, whether it's Facebook or it's Instagram or it's our Pro with Reels. So again, we are not the only platform out there, but we are the only one that does it automatically for you. And we do know that many, many advisors are becoming very profitable because of it. And we just congratulate you on using us, and we're here there to help you. Our model is an advertising model, so suppliers help pay for it. That's how we make money, but we don't make money on the transactions. I hope that was clear, and thank you again for having us, Dan, and we love sponsoring this wonderful session.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. Thank you again, Denise. Thanks for everyone to coming out. We'll see you all in January, but like I say always, just have a happy holidays. Hope everyone stays happy, stays healthy, and we'll see you in 2025. Thanks.
Bye-bye, everyone.